Gina Carano just sucker punched the House of Mouse, the Walt Disney Company, as they tried to silence her, and she and her lawyers said no. So did the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. And now, folks, we're here to tell you that it may actually impact when Kathleen Kennedy is going to retire. You might be a little bit cynical, but after this video, you won't be. Stick around and decide for yourself. Does this change when Lucasfilm will finally see change themselves? Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Pro Channel, where we, as ever, endeavor to explain entertainment, keep you ahead of the culture curve. Helping us do so today, we've got Vash Sky of T3PO and ThatPodPlace. Also, we've got Marvin of Tooneytown TV. Gentlemen, welcome to you both.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you so much for having us. Really happy to be here and going over a case that I think has everybody's collective interests on.
Well, folks, we're going to trial. I mean, it's going to trial. It's going to happen now. Discovery's going to happen. You're going to get the emails. You're going to get the stuff. So enough of us chattering and clattering about it. Let's go to it. You click the like button as we do. Straight from Miss Carano herself. This is her tweet. It says, update. After the judge denied Disney's request to dismiss my case, Disney requested permission to immediately appeal that decision to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals and delay all discovery while that appeal takes place. Now, guys, what Disney was doing here, going to one of the most liberal courts in the nation, and they were sent back to the original station, back to the other judge, the first place, and said, no, we will not do this. But Disney likely was only trying to get to the point of stopping discovery. We'll talk about why in just a moment, and it will have major ramifications. So big is this trial, and backed by Elon Musk, by the way, for a reason. So big is this trial that it actually could change Tinseltown forever. Yesterday, October 16th, 2024, we learned that the judge denied Disney's unusual request, a Hail Mary of Hail Marys. I am obviously very pleased with the opportunity to keep moving forward with the judicial process and into discovery. While I wish this was not necessary, as it is not my desire to be in this battle in court, I will not shrink away from it because it is hard or uncomfortable. Again, a huge thanks to all of you who have shown me support daily, to my incredible lawyers, and to Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, and the people at X for the opportunity in continuing this lawsuit and seeking justice. And lest anyone say, well, this is just not that big a deal, it's been overblown, out of Bloomberg law by Ufanabong Umana, Disney denied early review of Mandalorian actor bias suit. This says the Walt Disney Company lost its bid to get immediate appellate review of The Mandalorian star Gina Carano's discrimination lawsuit. Disney's request for immediate review by the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit over whether the First Amendment protected its ability as an artistic entity to make casting decisions by removing someone whose advocacy harmed its own expression isn't purely a question of law. In other words, sorry, Disney, your argument is already null. I want to go to one more spot before we get into the conversation, and that is, of course, ThatPodPlace.com, which, folks, if you're not yet bookmarked, well, you should be. This is from John F. Trent. It says, the suit also alleges defendants terminated Carano's employment, and here's what matters, and took other retaliatory actions to limit and deny her future employment opportunities. Let me say it again. It's not just that they ended her job with Star Wars. The allegation is they went beyond. They tried to damage her far beyond Disney. It wasn't just enough to terminate her in a galaxy far, far away. They wanted to send her far, far away from any production ever because she dared voice moderate, let me repeat it again, moderate political viewpoints. Not conservative, moderate. So that is what this is all about. Disney has tried to deny, to stop, to silence Gina Carano from getting discovery. And by the way, stop Elon Musk as well. Stop getting the discovery documents out into the public. Don't get Kathleen Kennedy's emails. Don't get the communications. Don't find out what was going on between her and Leslie Headland. Not allowed to know any of that. It's all been denied. We're getting it, and it has major ramifications for when Kathleen Kennedy might decide to leave Lucasfilm. We'll get to that in just a moment. But first, I want to open it up to the panel. Gentlemen, what do you think about this major breaking piece of news here that indeed this is going to trial now?
Well, I mean, you got to look at the way that they went about this, Pro. Disney was very adamant on this not going to Discovery. And that means where there's smoke, there's fire. And somebody who has nothing to hide will not hide. The truth will set me free is a very real thing. And as well as the that old adage, you know, if you have nothing to hide, then there's nothing to hide. They are instead they are trying to board up their closet so that nobody can get a peek behind the door to see what's inside of there. And I have a feeling that when the court opens that closet up, when they start discovery, when they look at correspondence between people like Kathleen Kennedy and Leslie Headland and all of Pablo Hidalgo and all the others there at Lucasfilm who allegedly is conspired to destroy this woman's career for expressing moderate political viewpoints that disagree with their own, you're going to see a major avalanche of skeletons tumbling out of that closet, and we're all going to be here to look at it, and it's not going to be pretty for them. It's not at all.
Vash, this is a company that is putting 7 layers of plywood up and telling you there's no hurricane on the way. Their actions don't match their words. What do you think? How absurd is the House of Mouse looking right now?
I think they're looking very absurd. They're looking very desperate, I would say, more than anything right now, because I think you astutely pointed out on today's ThatPodPlace, talking about this same story, that they ran to the Ninth Circuit in order to seek relief regarding this issue in a desperate bid in order to prevent this discovery from actually occurring and taking place. We've seen similar actions by the Walt Disney Company, actually in an entirely different context when it comes to the recent Slack leaks that happened. The company didn't acknowledge it. They said, well, we don't really, we're not going to concern ourselves with this. We think this is inaccurate, untrue. But the interesting thing about the whole process was they immediately pulled out of Slack as their default communications device after that story had broken. That a leak like that was alleged by Nullbridge, I believe, is the leaking source for that. So it's interesting when you're cataloging this and you're seeing the amount of importance that Disney might place on such issues. You have to look at only their actions, not necessarily their words. And they ran to the Ninth Circuit looking for relief. They didn't actually get it. There's nothing stopping this train now. And like Marvin astutely pointed out, I think a lot will be revealed in all this, which is why they're trying to keep it down on the level, or on the download, and keep it out of the courts, because not only are the courts of opinion when it comes to the judge will be interesting to see, but also too the court of public opinion, I think, is the one that Disney's most concerned about here.
I think also you're going to see, who did Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm? What media outlets did they correspond with about this? Did they give marching orders? Are we going to find out that? Do they have an email chain with Variety about this is the way we need you to attack Gina Carano? They're arrogant enough that they might have just, not scrubbed that information.
We want to give a big shout out to Andrew Esquire, who's been on the channel many, many times. He's a legal analyst. He also helped us in understanding just how likely it was for Disney to lose in the Florida case, where they were trying to change the property rights of the entire nation with their arguments on why they should be able to continue governing the Walt Disney World Resort as opposed to having the state of Florida institute real oversight. Andrew had this to say back in April, and is another win for him. The Walt Disney Company is setting up another huge fail when it comes to the First Amendment and trying to dismiss the Gina Carano case. He's exactly right. Wanted to give him credit on that. I want now, though, to turn to the Kathleen Kennedy issue, specifically Marvin. It seems to me that this will undoubtedly have an impact on when Kathleen decides to go. And folks out there might say, oh, come on, Pro, there's no way. Well, let me explain. Kathleen Kennedy wants to leave with a lot of positivity surrounding her. The problem is going to be now, this is going to trial. Unless there's a settlement, unless there's some sort of decision that is made inside of the mediation, this is going to trial. So in trial, and even if we just go to mediation or to a settlement, you're going to get discovery. You're going to get the emails. You're going to get the stuff. And that's going to create a cacophony of negative press coverage. Perhaps, I mean, we'll see how the defense goes, but you're going to see a lot of negative coverage, at least on this channel, covering the sins, the ills, the bad deeds of Disney and Lucasfilm. That is going to mean that Kathleen either has to leave before all of this starts breaking, or she's got to leave after. The chances of her leaving in the midst of it, well, that would make it seem like she was, that she is actually guilty herself and that she feels badly or whatever. She's not going to leave during that. So we know that the trial is going to be the second half of 2025. So now I think we do have a moment when Kathleen Kennedy is likely to either leave in the next 6-7 months, or she might try to stick around until 2026 with The Mandalorian and Grogu movie and get some sort of win out of that. But I tend to think that this John Williams documentary might be the end of Kathleen Kennedy in terms of movie making with Lucasfilm, because I think they would like to get her out of there before she's having to testify. And she's likely now to be forced into testimony.
I think it's all going to depend on what comes out in discovery. If there is you know, horrific emails found from Kathleen Kennedy's account regarding Gina Carano, then she might end up being the scapegoat in this situation. It might be, wow, Kathleen Kennedy mishandled this, and now she's gone, folks. We've gotten rid of her. So that's not and that obviously would not be a Kathleen Kennedy decision. That might be a Bob Iger decision. That might be a board of directors decision. Now, I don't know if, you know, the rumors have all flown around that Kathleen Kennedy has some kind of ironclad, you know, golden parachute that was built into the or cooked into the contract by Lucas when the sale went through. We don't know if Disney has the ability to get rid of her. But I mean, if there's wrongdoing here, then yeah, we might see Bob say to her, Kathy, it's time for you to go, and you got to go now. Whether or not we see that, though, is anybody's guess, because, you know, they are going to do everything in their power to protect her. She is a powerful female executive within the company. That is not something that they get rid of easily, unless it's Victoria Alonso. But, you know, and look, I get it. Everybody, when they hear Kathleen Kennedy retirement, I've seen it on my channel, we've seen it on your channel, people will be like, oh, yeah, right, guys, we've heard this song and dance before. This is an entirely different situation. Entirely.
They could not stand a real strong woman. They just couldn't stand it. And now they put themselves into serious legal liability here.
Not to mention, bro,
go ahead, Mark.
No, I was just going to say the only strong female character that they have brought out in the Disney era that people have actually like accepted and taken to was Cara Dune, and that was long before anyone knew anything about Gina Carano's politics, whether you're for one side or the other. People saw Cara Dune and they were like, "Man, she's awesome. She's cool. I want to see a whole show with this lady." It was the one big win that the Fempire ever had in their agenda, and they got rid of her because she expressed moderate views. That's insane to me.
Vash, what do you think about the chances of this modifying the Kathleen Kennedy exit timetable now?
You know, it very well might. I mean, I think they're looking to maybe separate ties with her in preparation for this. I think that is a scenario that is very likely. Now, as part of the discovery process, they had to determine whether or not her deposition or testimony is even necessary. So I think that's what Marvin was referring to, in which we'll have to see what actually comes out there. I think she is absolutely paramount to this case. We've seen the Kathleen Kennedy meddling, and we've seen that in that she's the one common thread throughout all of these failed projects at Lucasfilm. Obviously, she has a lot she contributes a lot towards whether a project lives or dies or and so forth. We saw her during the what is it, the earnings, the presentation, which they announced a whole bunch of products, including Rangers of the New Republic. So obviously she has green light approval when it comes to stuff like that. I think she's most paramount in this case because I think a lot of this stuff has been directed by her specifically. And I think Elon's lawyers are going to make that argument in court. And I think there is enough evidence by which they can actually do so successfully. I would think that Disney would like to protect her, or at least if they can't protect her, then maybe separate ties with her before a lot of this damning information comes out, in which her reputation might take a massive hit, depending on what actually comes out in court.
Yeah, it's hard to fall from the ground, but Kathleen might manage it. Folks, we don't know what's in the hearts and minds of Kathy, Leslie Headland, and Bob Iger, the rest. But what we can say is that this trial could have a huge impact on Tinseltown, on LA, on California, even the economy there. And the reason is that this law that is being used to defend Gina Carano, it's one that defends political speech in California specifically. In the past, it's been there to defend commies, but now it's being used to defend not only conservatives, but moderates. If the studios, places like Disney, if they cannot fire people for having moderate or conservative views, then that is going to transform California. That has been how they have enforced a political firewall where nobody can step outside the orthodoxy, the hegemony that exists in California. So this could transform everything to the point that they might not even have the incentive to stay clustered in California in the way that they have been. This has huge ramifications. And guys, I'm here to tell you, this is why Elon picked this battle. This is why he decided that Gina was the one to come riding in, and he was the one to pony up for the pony to take her there. What do you think?
I absolutely agree. And look, if there was nothing to this, if Disney had nothing to hide, they would have gladly let Elon waste money. They'd be like, yeah, go to Discovery. What are you going to find? You're going to find nothing. This is all her fault. But we have nothing to hide. But no, you're absolutely right. This could change the landscape of Hollywood. These laws that were made to protect one side of the aisle are now being used to defend the other side. And there's a lot of people out there who are not going to like that, because the court of public opinion, or public opinion on one side of the public, has already, deemed Gina Carano persona non grata. You just had that amazing montage of all the threats that she received from people that were like going after her and threatening her life. Disney comes out and tells you you're not a real Star Wars fan if you didn't like Moses Ingram, but they completely ignored all of this. And that's something that you're going to have to look at. Like, it's good for me, but not for thee. And you're going to see
Disney's rather despicable. I mean, it just, the fact that they manufacture outrage against some of their people, and then they use them as racial shields. And then you've got Gina Carano, who they specifically handled this in a way that left her vulnerable, and she had to actually bunker down in her home for a week because of the way that Disney handled this. It's Disney is just despicable, and the people who run Disney are despicable. And frankly, they're like roaches that need to be put under the light, because they've decided to do things that put others in danger over and over and over again. They act as a corrupt corporation. All of those are my personal beliefs, folks, and I'm allowed to have them.
Well, you know what, Pro? They not only even did they ignore these threats, they wanted her to, basically go into the stockade. They wanted to ring the shame bell. They wanted to put her in these Zoom calls where these activists were going to come in there and scream at her and basically throw virtual tomatoes at her face while she sat there and took it.
For daring to be a moderate.
And they would not have done that had they known Elon's lawyers were going to be involved. They like to pick on the little guys, the people who couldn't defend themselves. They'd never do this with a Carl Weathers or Mark Hamill, and that's what's detailed in this lawsuit right here. But they will pick on the little old Gina Carano, who's one of her biggest roles is going to be the Mandalorian. And so it's like, okay, well, we have carte blanche to do whatever we want with her. Yeah, specifically referring to the Unruh Act, which was established during the Red Scare or the blacklisting days during the MacArthur era of the United States. Obviously, impacting Hollywood greatly, and like Marvin said, justice is supposed to be blind, and when you put that sword in her hand, it's going to hit both ways. Apparently, it is at this current moment. It's going to be a very interesting thing to see, because we've heard about blacklisting, not just in the Hollywood space traditional that we've been seeing here from Lucasfilm and otherwise, but we've also heard it in the animation space as well, and how that's been transformed under Jennifer Lee, at least within Disney, and how they've blacklisted some people within the animation space. So this has huge implications for not just the Hollywood community, but the entire industry, entertainment industry at large. And hopefully we can get some things balancing out in a way that they haven't been allowed to before with this current case.
Absolutely. And, in Hollywood, they like to pretend that justice is still blind, but they have cut holes in the blindfold because, it is 100% targeted justice in Hollywood. You have people like Polanski, people like Bryan Singer, and Kevin Spacey making a comeback. These people have allegedly committed the worst crimes human beings can commit upon other human beings, the worst crimes in humanity. And they are still, Roman Polanski continues to get Oscar nominations. He's still allowed to work in the industry, and people like Meryl Streep will give him a standing ovation. Meanwhile, they'll consider Gina Carano the scum of the earth for expressing a moderate viewpoint. This is absolute lunacy, and it needs to be pointed out on a grand stage.
It's very good that, as we said, they thought they could handle Gina because they thought that she didn't have much of a defense because she didn't have the resources. It's just too bad for Disney, for Lucasfilm, for Kathleen, that Elon came riding in with a team of lawyers, the best in the world. And oh, by the way, they came riding in on a cyber beast. Folks, it's time for you to put us on a cyber beast, please. We'd love it. Just by clicking the like button. Share, subscribe, click it, stick it to the algorithms. It is the notification bell. Drop a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts. And do you think this will have the kind of impact that we're talking about, or do you think that we're overblowing it all? We'd love to hear from you. Give us your call. And make sure you check out Vash Sky over on ThatPodPlace, as well as T3PO, and Marvin the Movie Monster at Tooneytown TV, as well as Tooneytown Wrestling. Gentlemen, as always, it's been a true pleasure. I am sure the audience hopes you'll return soon, as do I. Folks, we must fly. But until the next time, check us out 3 times a day. Thrice is nice. Keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.
Hey everyone, I'm Wilton the Troll, and I got a really important PAS. I just feel it's important to take a moment to reflect on the current slate of Star Wars movie. I mean, we haven't had a woman take the lead on any Star Wars projects whatsoever in Star Wars yet. And that's partly because other women who are leading Star Wars, they don't want to let that happen, which totally isn't stereotypical of women. Am I right, ladies? But here we are, with director Charmin Abinadab Chinook or something. Anyway, she's a woman who's bringing a lot of weight to Star Wars because of her, pedigree. And yes, it's time for a woman to lead Star Wars. I mean, saying that has totally worked in every other sphere of life, especially politics. Come on, Hillary Clinton, you tell them that it's time for a woman to smash that patriarchy. Anyway, that's all I have to say, and I think it's important for you to know that. Thank you.